Hello there. You are listening to the Girl Talk podcast brought to you by Fox Toyota of East Tennessee. My name is Carol.
I'm Kelly.
My name's Trisha.
How do you say no? I mean, people ask you to do stuff all the time.
No. That's how you say
that
it.
was
No.
good.
I'm terrible at this, y'all. Can I just go ahead and say
Likewise.
we're going to be talking about knowing when
yes.
to say no.
No, yes.
Yeah, no, yes. Because here's what I think. A long time ago, I don't know why I think this, but a long time ago when people would ask me to do something, and it still happens today. It happened this week. People would ask me to do things, and I would think, if they thought enough of me to ask me, then why wouldn't I say yes? And then I get so stinking tired and burned out, and I'm cranky, and I think, why do I say yes to all this stuff? Like, none of this is what I want to do. And like, you start to resent that. I am the case study in what when you say yes to everything, because I don't know my own personal limits and the load that I have to carry. So
You are not alone.
Okay.
Yeah,
you are not alone.
y'all were just looking
No.
at me, and I thought, okay, maybe this is like a personal counseling session.
Just
okay.
thinking, absolutely. I do the exact same thing. Someone asks me to do something, I'm so complimented, I say yes without regard. And I don't even stop to think about it. And that is the problem. I don't stop to pray about it. And that is the real problem.
I know.
Yeah.
I also know that. I mean, there's like that FOMO, the fear of missing out.
Oh, yeah,
you know,
sure.
I want to say yes because there's so much good stuff in the yes. There's so much beauty in the yes. There's so much love and joy and fun in the yes.
Seems like fun.
And
Yeah.
then you'll like me. And there's so much
Right.
being liked
Well, that's
in the yes.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you why this, because I read this quote, it was on Pinterest or somewhere, and they said, the price of anything is the amount of life that you're willing to exchange for it. And I didn't like that. Like, the price of your yes is the amount of life that you're exchanging for it. When you put it in those terms, I was like, I'm saying no to everything. And then somebody asked me, oh, will you do this? I'm like, yeah, oh, yes, I
Sure,
would love
why
to. Yes. Even though I have 2 other things that day, I still said yes. And I was like, oh, my word. And it's supposed to be my day off.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, why do I do that? And so I want us to get to the heart of that. And I think you've already hit at it.
I do too. I wrote that down too. Did you write?
No, I didn't write it down.
I wrote down, then you'll like me.
Yeah. Then
Was
you'll
that
like me.
it?
Yes.
Yes.
And you'll value me. That's where I
and
found
if
my
I
value.
don't, you won't like me.
Right.
Is my fear. But yes,
And you
it's
won't
how
value me.
Value.
Well, I think it speaks to the value of someone in that we're needed. Because I think we all want to feel needed.
Sure, we all want to feel needed, but there's a line between the I want to feel useful,
Yeah.
I want to feel needed, and that's where my identity is, and all of a sudden there's pride wrapped up in that, and
Writing all this down.
self
Yeah.
congratulations
Yes.
and all of that.
Yes.
Wow.
Look at what a good person I am because I said yes to all these things.
Right.
Needed, valued, liked,
Yep.
identity,
Yeah.
pride.
I'm the busiest person in the
Wow.
whole wide world,
Yeah.
which must mean I'm the most well-liked person in the whole wide world. People love me.
I know, right?
That's the fear we get into. I can't not be busy because then that means nobody wants me to be part of their team. And if nobody wants me to be part of their team, then I'm not valued.
But I don't think about that in the moment. I don't, it seems so simple. Can you do this thing, or do you want to be part of this thing? Sure, but I'm not realizing when I dig down deep that there is some really deep-seated insecurities there.
Yeah. For me, I know that's what it all is.
Me too.
Yeah. So Kelly and I were talking the other day about a statement that came up in both of her Sunday school class and my Sunday sermon about you don't drift towards holiness. You only drift away from God. And I'd never thought of it. I never heard it put that way. But I think what I'm realizing the older I get is if my intentions aren't set, then I will say yes to everything because, and I usually say yes more when I'm tired because I'm tired.
It's easier.
Yeah, it's easier to say yes than it is no. And I always feel like I have to provide a reason why I'm saying no.
Yes,
Which
correct.
takes more energy than saying yes. You know, it's and we live in a culture that busy is the new skinny, I think,
100%.
Like,
yes.
I've not talked to anybody in the last 2 years and I've said, hey, how you doing? They're going, gosh, I'm so busy. Like, you doing good? I'm busy.
Crazy. I'm crazy busy.
Crazy busy, yep. And so I think we wear that around as kind of a badge of honor because we're insecure, because we're, lonely, because we have worth issues or security issues, insecurity issues. But I don't know that we really think we have a choice.
Oh, agreed. I think part of the problem is that we think that no one else will do it also. There is that whole 80-20 rule of 80% of or 20% of the people do 80% of the work. And it's really probably more like 10% of the people do 90% of the work.
Yeah.
And so if somebody asks me to do something, there's that guilt of, oh, well, if I don't do it, it won't get done.
Yeah.
But you unpack that a little bit, and really what you're doing is robbing someone else of the opportunity to get involved every time you say yes to something you can't take on.
Yeah. And
you are getting into that pride thing of, it's all about me, and I'm the only one who can do this because I'm the best person on the planet. And so nobody else can do it as well as I can. And it just, it uncovers all of that sin nature that's in our hearts.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes I say yes to something just because I want to do it. Like, I want to do it. It's about me. It's about me having fun, or me, getting a pat on the back, or me doing some kind of thing. Not because I'm afraid somebody else won't do it. That's a nicer thing. But I'm just like, well, I want to do it, so I'm going to say yes. But then all these other things have to fall away because I said yes to that one thing.
Yeah.
And that is what I haven't really put together until we're having this discussion. That's pride too. It's just a different face of it.
Yeah.
Y'all know I love to read. I love to listen to other podcasts. I love, all things leadership. I love knowing why people do the things they do. And lately I've been kind of focusing in on like why I feel so spent. One reason is because I don't really have a good understanding of what my capacity is. So that's one thing. But the other thing is I think we have to think of our schedule and our times and our what we do and what we're called to do as emotional labor. Somebody used that term, and I was like, I've never heard it. He said, you only have a finite amount of time and energy and resources and focus. You only have a limited amount of that every day. So at the beginning of the day, you have to be real intentional about the things you're going to spend your time and your attention and your focus on. Because if you don't, you're not going to drift toward God. That's for sure. You're going to drift away from him, and you're going to end up doing things that really aren't what you're called to do or what you are gifted to do, and those kinds of things. And so I've been trying to really take a look at my schedule and go, okay, emotionally, this is going to take this much emotional energy. I have this much left. Now, how am I going to spend it? And that's spilling over into my life as a mom.
Oh, yeah.
As a friend.
Oh, yeah.
As a church member, as an employee, all those things. And when you add that up at the end of the day, and I've started to try to think about that when I start my day, like, here's how much I've got, and lay that before the Lord and say, Lord, this is the emotional energy and focus and time and attention that I have today. How would you have me spend that?
Well, and there's so many great ways you can spend that for him. As Christians, we should care about abortion. That doesn't mean that every single one of us need to go and volunteer at our local abortion clinic to stand outside and encourage women not to have an abortion.
Yeah.
We should care about human trafficking.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that all of us should volunteer for an organization. But there are things we should care about. We're all called with the Great Commission to be evangelists. We're all called to spread the love of Christ and to tell others about him. That doesn't mean all of us are called to go do international missions. So there are things we should care about that we should give some emotional energy to, some prayers to, without actually saying yes to giving our time to.
You just summed my struggle up in like 4 words. You said there's an amount that you can spend for him, and the amount that you can spend for me. It's all his. The amount that I feel worn out and spent, it's because I'm spending it for me. If you look at your emotional labor and how much, say you have $50 emotional dollars that you can spend every day. when I engage in the activities that I know God has called me to do, and the things that I feel gifted to do, when I spend my emotional money in that way, I come out with, I reap benefits from that. And it's more like an investment than it is an expenditure, you know? But when I'm doing it for me, that's when I'm just like, get frustrated. Because I'm realizing that I'm serving from a place of lack in my life. And when I'm serving God and He's my sufficiency, He fills me back up.
But this takes intentionality.
Yeah.
And that is the thing that I never really got, was that the drifting piece. I'm not trying to leave none of my emotional dollars or my physical self to my family. It just happens when I don't think about it. And something that helped me was there was this planner that you told me about, Carol.
Yeah.
And it starts out and it says, what are your top 3 for the day?
Yeah.
Something like that. And the days that I stopped and I went, what are my top 3 for the day? Okay. Honoring, let's say it was honoring God. And then it was like being, meeting the needs of my family. And then it was some self-care. And then I broke down what I was doing that filled those. Am I really doing the things that I'm saying that I'm prioritizing? Am I really prioritizing these things? Because then you list the activities that you're doing to meet those priorities. And it was really eye-opening to me. And I realized, hey, being there to make dinner for my family and being with them is really important. Yeah. And if I'm gone on a tennis match, or if I'm gone running an errand or hanging out with a friend, even though it's a fun thing, I'm not going to be there for that. Now, that's not always the case, but it was very helpful to look at my activities and see how do they line up to what I say my priorities are.
Yeah.
And that was helpful to learn what I can say no to.
Yeah. But I will say I can write down things on paper and have every intention, and I still go off the rails.
Sure.
Because what I write down on paper is what I want people to see if they ever found my plan.
Oh, really?
You know what I'm saying?
You told us to burn those.
Yeah. You have specific instructions to burn those. But I think there's just that performance thing in me that I want people to approve of my schedule every day. And I would say, even your best intention, I've been praying this prayer for a little bit, and God does it quite often to interrupt my schedule, because we have become a culture that lets our schedule drive everything in our lives. We're so overscheduled. Our kids are overscheduled. They got too much, and we have become a culture that lets the schedule drive us instead of really what we feel called to do and our really big motivations. Now, there are days that I plan all that out and I'm intent on, and God interrupts me and takes me in a total different direction. At that point, you know what? I throw the planner out the window and say, hey, we'll try again tomorrow.
Yep.
Because He will interrupt you, and you can't plan everything. But I just want us to get to the point, number one, where we feel like we have a choice, and number two, where we're intentional about putting some things in place that are going to fill us back up. I have said this before on the podcast. Nobody had ever asked me the question, what fills you back up? And I remember the first time I was asked that question, I was like, I don't know. Like, I think so many of us don't know what fills us back up. Mm-hmm. And so, you know what fills its place? The scroll. Yeah. That don't fill us back up. That's avoiding something that you need to do. For me, it is anyway. Yeah. That's avoiding.
Saying yes to that is saying no to so many other things.
A Netflix binge, I'm avoiding something. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like, that's me trying to pacify, give my emotional self a pacifier so I don't have to deal with the real issue. So I think that for me, I'm trying to get more intentional, and I don't do it perfectly. I don't do anything perfectly, but I'm trying to get more intentional, because I want, at the end of the day, when my life is over and God says it's time for you to come to heaven, I do not want people to say she did a lot of stuff that meant nothing.
Right.
And I think we would all agree that we, at the end of our lives, we want our lives to have mattered for God. And yet we spend so much time chasing the culture and so little time putting intentions in place to get us to that end goal. that a lot of people are just letting life happen, and we're drifting further and further and further away. I didn't mean to get on a soapbox there.
I think one of the things that I just thought of that is related to what you said is that we've said yes to a lot of things that maybe we should have said no to. And there are other things in our life that we need to say yes to. That it's not just that we need to say no. We need to say yes to some things and no to some of the things that we've already said yes to that we need to not be involved in anymore because we're doing things perhaps in our life that don't matter. And we're missing out on those opportunities to say yes to things that do matter because we're doing things that don't matter.
Yeah.
Everything we do is a choice. When you say yes to this, it's probably no to something else. So I remember that book, The Best Yes. So what is the best yes in the moment?
Yeah.
It's powerful.
That's why I think we need to be in community and accountability, because I don't always choose wisely. I don't always choose the best yes. And here it's not even the best yes. I will say it's the most selfishly gratifying yes. Like if I had to be honest about it, sometimes I'll choose to go do something for me instead of serving my daughter or serving in my community or serving somewhere else.
Me too. That's what I started with. That's exactly it.
Yeah. And I think that we just got to lay that before God and let him sort that out, because I think he will. But I'm so tired of being at the mercy of what we got to do, We had an opportunity when the pandemic started that everything was taken off of our plate. And I don't know if y'all said this, but I did. I said, you know what? I'm not going back. I'm not going back. I'm going to be less busy when this is over, and I mean, it's not over yet, but we're in a much better place than we were 2 years ago. And what does my schedule look like? It's probably crazier now than it's ever been. And
I said that to myself during the pandemic, and I knew very well that I was lying to myself at the time.
But you still said it. We all did, didn't we?
But the Lord was like, Kelly, that's not going to be the case.
Yeah. And so what do you think is the secret sauce to living in the tension of being in a culture where we're supposed to make a difference, that tells us to say yes to everything, and our relationship with God? That's a tension, but that's where good things grow, I think. So what is the secret sauce to staying close to God in that tension?
I definitely do not know the secret sauce. Here's what
barbecue.
Here's what's been working. That's right. It's a mixture of ketchup and mustard. It's Chick-fil-A sauce. Here's what I have been doing that helps. And I don't always do it. Pray before every decision. I'm not trying to slap a spiritual Band-Aid over it. I'm being honest. I have to pray before every decision. Should I go to the post office now, God? I mean, seriously, I'm not trying to be silly. I have to, because every choice dictates a bunch of other choices. So for me, praying to see if I can't figure out what God's priorities are for me in that moment. That's the best I can do. Secret sauce?
Agreed. Prayer.
Yeah.
I mean, prayer and daily time in God's word.
Yeah.
God will help reveal to you his priorities if you are in constant communication with him, and that involves prayer and time in his word.
Yeah. And I think he's pretty stinking clear about what he wants us to do. We're not here for us.
It's true.
So if I just had one filter, just one, Carol, here's your filter, that would be it. You're not here for you. Like, what does that even mean? Well, he's got a greater purpose for us than just living for ourselves and feeding our own selfish desires. Because I am so selfish. Not I can be. I am so selfish. And so when we lay that down and realize that we're not here for us, that God's got a greater purpose and plan, then I think we can begin to put those things in place that help us to live a life that not only glorify God, but that would serve our families well, that would serve our communities well, that would serve each other well, I think. And I think that's one of the reasons our culture has just become so divided, because everybody's, let me get mine and hang on to it, And we've forgotten how to love each other and serve each other. So, I don't know. Anyway, we'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
Yep.
How do you say no? How do you really filter things through life? If you've got ideas, tricks that you use, we'd love to hear from you. You can always email us at girltalk@thelightfm.org. You can check in on the Facebook page. Also have a girlfriends group you can join. We'd love to hear from you there. Want to say thank you to our friends at Fox Toyota of East Tennessee for their partnership. We could not do it without you folks, so thank you so much. And we'll see you next time we gather around these microphones for the Girl Talk podcast.